Hello Gemini, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for October for the Sun or the Ascendant. As ever, I'm going to give you a broad overview of the key strands to look out for, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in forensic detail all the key influences, dates and changes that are going to be particularly relevant to your zodiac sign. Now, of course, the sign of Gemini is governed by Mercury. Mercury, the planet of communication, which gives you that dazzling ability to think speedily and on your feet. Now, as we start this month, Mercury is just still in retrograde, but on the 2nd it goes into forward motion, and it's going to be in your sector of home and emotion through to the 10th. So I still feel that there may be some things that you're considering, particularly about where you live, or perhaps to do with communications within your family. But Mercury then is going to be moving on the 10th into a sparkling location, house 5, very much to do with your self-expression. And the Sun and Venus are close together in this area right through to the 3rd week of this month, and on the 22nd come into an exact conjunction. And this celestial lineup can do wonders for your social interaction, for the expression of your talents, creative skills and artistry, or even a potential for some kind of spark or connection to someone really special when it comes to your love life. But of course, Mars is making its way through your sign right through till March the 25th, 2023. And this month it is squaring with Neptune, and that's a tricky influence. So some of the things that you want to achieve, particularly professionally, may need care because Neptune can be a very distorting influence. I need to share with you about the full moon of the 9th, the solar eclipse of the 23rd, and so much more. So please stay with me. Now, if you would like to ascend above this zodiac broadcast and explore more serious astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of your personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your life, but also your year 23 personal forecast with the rest of 2022 free and 30% off with my special package. Please see the link beneath this video. No 2 charts are the same, totally based on your personal data, and will give you searing insights. Now, if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. If you've already done so, thank you so much for your continued support. So Gemini, as you make your way into October, your ruler Mercury is just coming to the end of its retrograde. But it is going to be returning to your sister air sign of Libra on the 10th. And that's really significant because from August 26th to September the 23rd, Mercury was making its way through that area. And there may be something that was really exciting you through that time. Maybe it was a connection to someone. Maybe it was something to do with a creative strand that you may have just gone into a more reflective mode about. But I feel by the start of the 2nd, 3rd of this month, you can be on much more sparkling form. And of course, that alliance between the Sun and Venus, which goes right through the spine of this month, is so exciting, particularly in the first 2/3, because the Sun and Venus are in your sister air sign of Libra, house 5. Of course, the air element is very much about communication. The 5th house is very much about where we can showcase our talents, but also enjoy the good things in life, life's pleasures and interactions, socially or in terms of demonstrating your talents. Now, Venus is a very luster adding energy to the sun, so you can really draw people's attention with all of the range of your special personality and skills in such an enhanced way with this combination. But it is true that on the 8th, Pluto ends a retrograde, one which began on April the 29th. Pluto, of course, has been going through your sector of deep, deep connections, and very, very impactful emotional change has probably gone on for you since 2008. The fact that Pluto comes to the end of the retrograde, I think, can be a little bit liberating for you in a way, but it is squaring up with the Sun and Venus, and the aspect becomes absolutely exact on the 19th. And that suggests, when it comes to the romantic domain, there could be someone you encounter that you're so powerfully drawn to, but may also at the same time feel that there's almost some compulsion or leverage going on. Be very conscious of your own motivations, but also of the other person's. But also, because the 8th house in a more prosaic sense can influence our long-term finance and also our more entrepreneurial talents, maybe you're being encouraged to take something that up until now may have been a hobby or an interest and take it much more seriously if you're wanting to manifest greater resources coming into your situation. Now, the 9th is a real standout moment for this month. Yes, there's a full moon, and it's a full moon that could ask you over the next 2 weeks to think carefully about how you spend your time and try to toggle between the different demands you may have, or crucially the different opportunities, because the 5th house, where the Sun and Venus are, is where you can showcase your individual desires. The 11th house, where the full moon is much more to do with the collective, but because Venus is so close to the Sun, maybe is that you're wanting to make some changes in terms of your future long-term direction, the 11th house, but you need to feel for sure that the desires that you have, the Sun conjunct Venus, are going to in some way achieve an audience or achieve recognition or admiration from the people that you're interacting with. And if there are some friends in your circle that are not quite so tuned in to some of your talents, then you could become more aware of it on this particular full moon. But around this full moon, there is a link between Mars in your sign, the Sun and Venus, but also Saturn at this part of the month going retrograde in your other sister sign of Aquarius, in your 9th house, and they are forging a grand air trine. This is incredibly helpful to you. So this full moon could really give you the propulsion to really take some of your talents more seriously. The position of Mars, despite the rather dissolving and confusing influence of Neptune upon it all through this month, just suggests to you that if you show the drive and determination along with the passion coming through the Sun and also the charisma through Venus, but also gain the information, the position of Saturn in the 9th house, and make sure that your connection to the world in terms of your ideas and philosophies is really clear. This alliance, this trio of alliances is so superchargedly purposeful for you to really push forwards with great conviction. So I think it could be a full moon that works extraordinarily well for your sign in particular. Also, in week 2, the Sun continues to forge a very stable link with Saturn. Saturn has a really bad reputation, but actually when I work with my natal clients, very often when Saturn moves over a house cusp, it can be a time when they for sure need to be more mindful of the responsibilities and limitations that Saturn can bring, but where we show the application and the perspiration to match our inspiration, rewards can come. And the Sun in the 5th house is really saying to you, Gemini, show people just how absolutely scintillating you are at whatever level, whether it's romantically, creatively, socially, however you want to project yourself. Saturn can be a very stable anchor for the flair and the passion that you show at this time. And on the 10th, with Mercury moving back into the sign of Libra, this really can get your sense of humour working in a very fertile and also quick moving way. Now on the 12th, Mars does forge that exact square with Neptune. But you know, within 3 degrees, they are aggravating each other all this month, all of November, and part of March next year. Mars in your sign is very much about your personal drive and energy and thrust and desire. The first house is where we're going to be most individual. So Neptune in your 10th house is really about your imagination and how you're connecting with the wider world. And if you are particularly interested in the more spiritual domain, this can be a great opportunity to use the thrust of Mars to raise your profile, but in the areas that really do inspire you. It's just that if you are trying to connect with someone influential who lives more in the practical domain, who's much more concerned with the balance sheet rather than the idea, you could encounter some frustration, and some people may not necessarily be quite as receptive to your ideas as you would like, or you could feel that some of your best plans just seem to just evaporate away. But there's so much structure at the heart of this month with that grand air trine and a really super full moon for you. As long as you apportion your energy and your time in the right areas, I do feel that you can push back on the more depleting potential of Mars squaring Neptune. Now on the 23rd, Saturn goes direct, and this is something to celebrate too. It went retrograde on June the 4th, and if you have found it difficult to break out in any way, perhaps because of the COVID situation, perhaps it's been more to do with a slight lack of inner motivation to explore, I think you can really find yourself much more able to advance and be more investigative in the way that really you have a passion for. But on the 23rd, both Venus and the Sun make their way into the deep and very intense sign of Scorpio. Now for you, this is house 6, very much to do with practicalities. Venus in its relating context through its rulership of Libra is asking you to be a bit more sacrificing and conscious of who does or contributes what, perhaps in more practical associations such as with colleagues, or who does what on the domestic front if you're in a shared household. But the Sun moving into this area is really also encouraging you to think about some of the more virtuous ways that we can lead our lives. And I think because the first 3 weeks of this month can be very playful, and you may find yourself having a few late nights and enjoying every single minute. So the Sun, particularly moving into your 6th house, is just saying to you, look, is it time to get a few early nights? Do you have would it be a good idea to maybe have a little bit of a cleanse? Try to reform your life in some kind of practical way. But on the 25th, we do have a solar eclipse, and it is conjunct Venus, and it is going to provide a backdrop energy for the next 6 months. So if you're in a job which you don't find very gratifying, even if it's very worthy and even if it's well paid, I think the Venus dimension is saying to you that you want to do something more creative or self-expressive, or something that's more imaginative in some way, or perhaps more people orientated because of the relating energies of the sign of Venus through Libra. Now on the 28th, Jupiter, the planet of growth and optimism, reverses in its retrograde into the sign of Pisces. But I think this is going to be really good for you, because this can start to offset some of the more confusing energy that Neptune has been creating in your work and ambition and goals area of your chart. And Jupiter, despite being retrograde, governs the sign of Pisces. It's the traditional ruler. So this is going to bring some more inspiration to the more imaginative energies that Neptune may have already been creating for you. It is going to go direct on November the 23rd, and on December the 20th it will move back into your sector of friendship, just perfectly timed for the last part of the pre-Christmas celebratory period. Now the 29th also sees Mercury move into Scorpio, where it can be brilliant for you in particular for picking over the details of situations, being very precise and meticulous. But just before it does move, it does square up with Pluto, the modern ruler of the sign of Scorpio. So quite a lot of scorpionic energy washing around at the end of this month. And I just feel that, again, just be conscious if you are trying to collaborate with anyone, particularly on a creative strand, and you're wanting also to make this work financially, that you're agreeing to things or getting involved in things or using your time on things where there's a good understanding of the politics. Because even if we like people, there can often be certain attitudes or ways people go about things that won't necessarily be a perfect fit for us. Doesn't mean to say we shouldn't go forwards. We just need to be mindful of what these deeper machinations may be about. Now the 30th is a really important day. It comes late in the month, but Mars slams on the brakes and it will be in retrograde through to January the 12th next year. So because of the square to Neptune, which I think could become more pronounced in November, this is where you need to be absolutely sure that where you're inputting your focus for your individual hopes is really precise, and you're not in any way trying to pursue something that might not be very practical. So I think that's really the clue with that. But this combination between Venus and the Sun is definitely the big story of this month, along with that astonishingly wonderful grand air trine that really can give you a stage, a platform for you to catapult forwards for some time to come.